Hello and welcome. My name is Larissa and I'm a freelance artist. Every winter there's of course always that rush of commissions that I get for Christmas presents and whatnot, and then in the beginning of the year there's usually a bit of a lull. But I had a couple of things that I needed to pick up at Michael's, and while I was there they had a big end of the year sales event going on, so I decided to use this slow period to paint some things for me for fun. First, I saw this 24 pack of acrylic paints. I had a bunch of colors that I was running pretty low on after a few recent commissions had depleted my stock, so this was a really lucky find that I was really glad to see. And I've always had a weakness for square compositions. I don't know why, I just do. So when I saw a 7-pack of square canvases, and I think I got this for like 10 bucks, that was 7 canvases, 10 bucks, a pretty reasonable size, and I may have even had a bigger discount from that from a coupon that day. I don't really remember. Like I said, this was a few weeks ago when things were a little bit crazier, so I didn't really pay a lot of attention to what I paid for everything. Sorry. But I was very excited to find a big pack of these. I use this sort of size a lot, especially for my own sort of projects, because I like that it's not teeny tiny miniature, but it is not large, and I can do sort of like gallery wall type things with them, or just have one in a little small space or something to fill in an area. Love these, very happy to have these. And today I'm going to use my new paints and one of these canvases, and I've decided that I'm going to paint one of my pugs as a Jedi. This isn't really anything new for me. I do a lot of pet portraits on a fairly regular basis. There's a lot of really proud pet parents out there, including myself, so it's not a big surprise, and I've done a lot of pet portraits, particularly in the last couple of years, but I haven't painted my own dogs recently. And of course, that means photo reference time. This did not go as easily as one would hope. I didn't think it would be too hard. I didn't need a very specific pose or anything. I just needed the picture of the dog facing generally sort of not quite profile, and turn down the lights in the living room, turn on a lightsaber, and get a couple quick shots. Easy, right? I didn't need a very exact angle. I didn't need a specific arm placement or anything. It should have been really easy. It wasn't. And because I plan on doing a painting of Ripper later, I was also trying to get photo references of both dogs. Not at the same time, because I'm not completely stupid, but still. First, I think they were confused because I was trying to put them up on a bench so that I would have a simpler background behind them. It isn't really gonna matter because it's not like I'm going to be like cutting it out in Photoshop or anything. I just thought that would be a little bit helpful for me, a little less distracting, and they're not used to being on the bench, so that really wasn't flying and they were not happy about that. And then second, I think they're very used to having the lightsabers around. I film a lot of TikToks with them, Larissa Carell and TikTok, yeah. If you're interested in a lot of lightsabers, that's pretty much what I do there. And they're used to having me around them, spinning the lightsaber, all that, that's fine. But they're usually not right next to me when I'm filming TikToks, and the lightsaber is by me, it's not down at their level. So I think they were really confused, A, that they were up on a bench that they're not normally up on. It's not that they're not allowed on it, they just don't normally have a reason to be up there. And then B, I don't think that they were used to having the lightsaber being held near them, so that was just a whole big confusing mess. Eventually I just decided to keep the lights dimmed, go where the pug was with the lightsaber kind of near them but not too close, and just try and get something where they are and where they were comfortable. That worked a little bit better, and I definitely got usable photos of each dog that way. Then it's just a simple matter of sketching onto the canvas and painting the picture. So now I have on an old comfy hoodie that I have clearly painted in a lot. There's paint spatter all over it, and I am ready to go. As usual, I'm going to start with the background and kind of try to work my way back to front throughout the composition. I want to keep the background fairly simple, but I never like my background to be too plain. So I usually like to have a very directional and visible brushstroke to my backgrounds. I think that makes the whole overall composition a lot more dynamic and interesting without being too distracting. As I said, I have painted pugs before, as well as a variety of other breeds, and definitely, oddly enough, even though I see them all the time, or maybe it's because I see them all the time, pugs are one of the hardest breeds that I've ever had to draw or paint before. All those little folds and wrinkles, the very distinctive colorations, especially on Buffy. She's a fawn, so she's got the tan areas and then she's got the black areas, but she's also 14 years old, so she's got a lot of white and gray in there too. So it's a little more complicated than, say, your average little terrier. And even though I originally thought I was pretty happy with my lightsaber reference photos, I realized once I got started painting that that was a little too dramatic and dark for me. It was a really cool picture, but it wasn't very identifiable as specifically Buffy, and not even so much as a pug. It just looked kind of overly dramatic for what I was going for. So I took a separate reference photo from a very similar angle of just Buffy in regular lighting situation, no colors or anything, and I'm kind of going to just use a blending of the two. I'm not like photoshopping them together or anything, I'm just kind of painting it as if it's the regular one, but then using the lightsaber reference photo to give myself an idea of where most of the purple light would be hitting. These aren't the most fine-tuned reference photos ever anyway, because it's not like I have her sitting up in Jedi robes that are exactly that and she's holding a lightsaber and I got a picture of her in the right pose. I'm obviously having to make a lot of this up off the top of my head, and so I have a lot of leeway and artistic license from these reference photos anyway. So I very much just made up the lighting and the shading of all the folds and the fabric of the robes. I just had a lot of fun with that, made it very dramatic and interesting with, again, not pulling too much interest, because the robes are a fun little detail because that's what makes it a Jedi pug, but I wanted the focus to be on the lightsaber and the pug's face. My own personal style with painting is a little impressionistic. It's not super smooth photorealistic. I like those brush strokes. I like that loosey-goosey dynamic movement that you get. So I try not to be too stiff, even if I am trying to get a recognizable figure. So while I'm trying to get the basic positions and shapes of like her larger folds and whatnot in her face, I'm not really worrying about getting every distinct little white hair versus a black hair versus a tan hair or a gray hair or whatever throughout her features. Just trying to have basically the general shapes to make it feel like Buffy to us. That's what I personally prefer, and that tends to be what my clients are looking for when I'm commissioned to do a pet portrait. Yes, you want it to be identifiable, but you more want to get the mood and the emotion of the animal than the exact photorealistic reference. If you wanted something to be exact like that, I figure take a photo and Photoshop it. If you're wanting something that's more of a feeling or the emotion or the character, then to me that's where a painting comes in and is a little more fun and interesting. I based Buffy's lightsaber off of my Kyber's RGB, which I did an unboxing of on my channel earlier, and we now have 2 of these and I absolutely love them. And I decided to go with purple for Buffy's lightsaber color, partly because I love purple, but also because, I mean, that's just kind of Buffy. Her nickname is Princess because she's this little girly girl and everything, so the purple just makes sense. Like, it just seems to suit her. But again, Buffy doesn't need this much hilt. I mean, assuming she was actually going to be wielding a lightsaber. So I definitely cut it way down, made it a lot smaller. It's not exactly this, it's just sort of inspired by, much like how in the movies Yoda has a teeny tiny little lightsaber because he's teeny tiny. If like actual Buffy or actual Yoda or one of the smaller characters or something were to use a lightsaber with a sort of standard sized hilt, that would just be ridiculous and it would not be very conducive to combat. So here's my finished portrait of Buffy as a Jedi Knight. Again, I wasn't spending a ton of time on this. I have less than 4 hours I would say, in this. It was a fairly simple, quick project. I did put a little more time and effort into it than I did for, say, those like paint and sip classes, because I had a lot more complex stuff happening between the weird lighting of a lightsaber, the complex folds in the fabric, and the fact that she's a pug. And even me in those paint and sip classes, I have a freaking art degree. I am an artist, and I had a hard time finishing in those classes in the time period because I was dealing with a pug, which is, as I said, much more complicated than some, like, you know, like a Labrador or something. So I'm very happy with how Buffy turned out. She's very cute. Love her. And I love that she's got her purple lightsaber. And I'm very excited now. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but now I definitely feel like I need to paint my other pug as a Sith. So hopefully that'll be coming up soon. If you're interested, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for a notification when I upload a new video. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time.